All right, folks, yesterday you should have copied your outline draft from last week into your template, and we're moving on to day 1 of our revisions. So where it says revision strategies, you're going to choose one, and there are 4 things that you can pick from, okay? You have something looking at your introductions or looking at how you transition from paragraph to paragraph. You have something called depth charging, which is something I'm going to model for you in a little bit with my essay. You have something called show versus tell, and you'll see a bunch of sentences that are like telling sentences where they basically are like a checklist. I did this, and I did this. And it's kind of boring to read, to be honest, okay? So showing versus telling is looking at what specific details you can use to make them a little bit more visual and specific. And that's kind of also what depth charging does, but show versus tell is more like sensory. Okay, so what did you experience? What did you feel? What did you like? What actions? Stuff like that. And then there's a sentence guide. So if you don't really even know how to structure paragraphs, or you don't even know, like I just wrote the stuff that was in the checklist, I never even thought about making it really into a paragraph. The sentence guide is something that would be really helpful because it does go, in this sentence you should do this, in this sentence you should do this. So let me kind of talk you through what they look like. So showing not telling is a PDF. And it's a PowerPoint, but I just made it into a PDF just in case you would be able to open it. But it's sensory details, okay? So instead of just telling me, I was angry when this happened, well, what do they do? How would you show that in words? And these are a little bit more with like dialogue and things, but you can look at some of the details, right? How is someone nervous, right? Foot tapping, heart racing. My parents were nervous to tell us that we were moving or something, okay, whatever you want to do with that. So think about the examples that you're using in your essay. Avoid using words like good or bad, right? Good to you might be, I don't know, a scoop of ice cream, but good to me is like 5 scoops of ice cream. So you got to make sure it's specific. Don't use words like a lot. Specify, right? What does kinda mean? Kinda is not even a word. It's kind of, but then that's not even really a full description. So be mindful of your basic language. Think about showing details. And then this is the step-by-step sentence guide, which is super helpful, and it's color-coded when something different needs to happen. So in the first sentence, right, do this. You can do these different things. In about 2 or 3 sentences, explain the background of your topic, right? Give any important details. And then you have your thesis statement. It says 2 supporting points right here, but remember, you're not really giving me that because we already approved our thesis statements on the discussion board, so don't change it if it was already approved. Unless you feel like you want to revise it, I would ask me first. So this first sentence is your topic sentence, right? So you kind of put your first point, which is about your personal experience. Then you give us anecdotes, you give us specific details. You really can't give me, data or anything like that or statistics because it's really more of like your personal experience. But ultimately, it's about 2 to 4 sentences that kind of give the example, and then 1 to 3 sentences that kind of really talk about interpreting the meaning of that. So it's just kind of helpful, especially when you're not really sure how to start, maybe even in conclusions. And then don't use these kinds of things, right? An anecdote that goes with this argument, that's a telling sentence. Don't tell me you're going to do something, just do it. So then the depth charging is what I'm going to show you. And then you have this revision PowerPoint also with leads, different ways that you can start your essay. So you have something called an alliterative phrase, which is really cool. And an example of that is down here, right? Timeless, tasteful, tried and true. It's where you use that same consonant sound. And you can use a hyperbole. You can use some sort of, personal story there, whatever you want to do. But those are some really good ideas for leads. And then transitions. These are things to think about when you're going from paragraph to paragraph. Then I gave you a list of different types of phrases. Oh, sorry, I think the formatting got messed up. But, when you're going from one paragraph to one paragraph, think about maybe starting it with these things, and that might help you go from one thing to the next kind of smoothly, or a little more smoothly. Okay, so depth charging is what I'm going to show you. So depth charging sounds like super complicated, but I promise that it's not. So it says to find a sentence, right? Whatever sentence that you have, and then find like the key detail in that sentence. Then once you highlight it or circle it, you're going to add more details or clues that should deepen the circled word, right? That should give us more information about it. And then once you do, that detail you put back into the sentence and revise it. Revise whatever it was. So I'll show you what that looks like. So here in this paragraph, I'm writing about my daughter. And I said, my oldest daughter, Ileana, decided to take a leap of faith and join Jeff Speakman's Kempo 5.0 a little over 2 years ago. When she first started practices over the summer, she was a shy little girl at the age of 7, doing her best to keep up with the older kids. Over time, her dojo has become her home away from home. Okay, so I like this, but it's kind of, what does home away from home mean? Okay, so if I'm going to look at depth charging, what's the most important part, right? Her dojo. What does the home away from home really mean? So I'm going to look at her dojo and I'm going to highlight that. So depth charging means I need to give a little bit more information or a little bit more details about what I highlighted. So her dojo is, I'd say, the place that led her to develop a champion's heart, or maybe spirit. And I might not like that, so I'm going to try another thing. Her dojo is where she has won, I would say, first place in several categories. Categories over the last 2 years. I gotta move myself. Okay. And then what does home away from home mean, right? So I might do this again. So she has won first place in over the last 2 years, right? Her home away from home. So what does winning first place and being home away from home have to do with anything? Okay, well, if you're confident, right? If you have, if you feel like you can do something, you're inspired to do something, you're going to accomplish more things. So her dojo has increased her motivation and belief in herself. Okay, I'm going to put these comments here because I know that I want to use them, but I need to put them in a sentence, okay? So my new sentence might be, over time, her dojo maybe has increased her motivation and belief in herself so much so that she has won first place in let's say several categories in the most recent tournament back in February. That's when it was. Okay. So, over time, her dojo has increased her motivation and belief in herself so much so that she has won first place in several categories in the most recent tournament back in February. So I'm going to copy this. I like this sentence better. And I'm going to paste it here. And I'm going to delete this. So automatically, I've just added a new detail. Sorry, I'm going to remove the formatting. That way it goes back to my MLA format. Okay. And I think with that, I probably increased it closer to the 400 count range with just revising one sentence. So over time, her dojo has increased her motivation and belief in herself so much so that, and I might even say in the most recent tournament back in February, she won first place in several categories. That actually might sound better. In the most recent tournament back in February, she won first place in several categories. Okay, while her coaches and peers play an important role in inspiring the confidence she has developed within herself, without access to the dojo, she might not have had the same opportunity to establish the trust and self discipline she displays today, right? The location itself holds memories that serve as a reminder of just how far she has come. Okay, so I feel like that reads so much better with just one sentence. And all I did was work the revisions here in comments so that I didn't lose my original sentence. And that's what depth charging is. You focus on one little thing and you add a little bit more details. And you'll notice I did it like 3 or 4 times before I even got a good one. And even when I pasted it back in there, I still had to change the order of things. So for someone who is more experienced with writing, and I do it on a daily basis, if I'm still revising several times for one sentence, right, then it's going to take some time for you to do that. But those of you that tend to have a more fully developed essay and you just really need some details here and there, depth charging might be something you want to look at. If your paragraphs are not anywhere close to being structured as close as mine, to my example, then maybe you need to pull up that sentence guide and really go through it one by one and have my essay open with it. And what did I do in this paragraph? What did I do in this sentence? Just model what I'm doing, what strategies I'm using for your essay to help you add a little bit more details. Remember, we're really striving to that 500 word count, which is probably, I would say, a little further closer to the half of the next page. Okay, and that's about where it should be. So I clearly could go back and put more things in my introduction, and I clearly could go back and put more things in my conclusion, but I really want to focus on making sure all the details that I have in my body paragraphs are where they should be. So once you're done with that, and we can click out of this, there is a response that needs to be completed, okay? So once you do that one revision strategy minimum, okay, do as many as you need, but one of the revision strategies is to, or one of the, sorry, the response you're supposed to do today is basically discuss one of the strategies you use for revisions, right? So for me, it'd be the depth charging, and how did it improve my essay, okay? Well, I used depth charging and it improved my essay because it hi, I'm an English teacher. It gave me more focus and specific details about her dojo, right? About my prompt and my thesis. All of those sentences individually went back. That was the one sentence that I felt was kind of and I changed it to be a little bit more specific and to tie back to my thesis. So that's something that I would have mentioned there, okay? Make sure that you don't put a comment. Make sure that you go to the Create tab. So it should say Submissions somewhere, and then it'll give you Upload, Create, and then Resources. Make sure you click the Create tab, okay? So that way nobody else sees your responses in there, just for me. All right, hopefully I'll see you on Zoom today, and if not, I hope you found this video helpful, and we will do this again tomorrow. All right, take care. We'll see you tomorrow.